Tomb Raider: Legacy of Atlantis is a full rework of the original 1996 Tomb Raider, and it's way more than a visual upgrade. Crystal Dynamics and Flight Wild Hawk Studio are rebuilding the game from the ground up. The core idea is still there, though. Lara Croft is once again chasing the Scion across classic locations like Peru, Egypt, ancient Greece, and an island tied to the myth of Atlantis. Lara's movement has been expanded with new acrobatic options, and the focus on exploring and solving puzzles is tighter and more connected to the world around you. Everything is designed to feel smoother and more natural without losing that old-school Tomb Raider structure. The goal here is clearly to keep the spirit of the original while making it feel right for modern players. The environments are bigger, more detailed, and built to be explored instead of rushed through. This feels like a bridge between eras. If you played the original years ago, it's a chance to see it reimagined properly. And if you only know Lara from the newer trilogy, this is a clean way to see where the series really started. Tomb Raider: Legacy of Atlantis is set to launch in 2026. Alkahest is a first-person action RPG set in a rough medieval world, and it's coming from Push On Studio, a team made up of longtime devs. The game pulls ideas from Dishonored, Dark Messiah, and Kingdom Come Deliverance, and you can feel that mix right away in how movement, combat, and interaction work. The story takes place in the Kingdom of Cadanor, where three noble houses are barely holding things together. You play as the youngest son of a minor lord who has no real status and needs to earn it the hard way. That push starts when goblin attacks suddenly spike, and you set out to figure out why. The world is built to feel grounded, with big open areas and a focus on realistic spaces instead of flashy fantasy tricks. Everything runs on Unreal Engine 5, and visually it looks sharp without going overboard. Alkahest is planned for 2026, launching first on PC, with current-gen consoles coming later.
Please, take it. Save our people. The girl's nothing but a shell now. She'll never be the same.
You broke my blade. But we broke your spirit!
Phantom Blade Zero showed up at the Game Awards 2025 with a release date and a fresh gameplay trailer, and it made its point fast. This is a slasher built around speed, sharp timing, and a heavy Eastern style that mixes kung fu with darker, punk-looking ideas. The new footage focuses hard on combat. Fights move quick, with parries, chained attacks, and constant motion. The character uses the space around them, and the action barely slows down. The world itself looks grim and tense, full of bosses, strange locations, and a steady flow of new weapons and upgrades. There's a dramatic voiceover in the trailer pushing the idea of the Phantom and the Blade becoming one, and it fits the tone of what's happening on screen. Some moments look so smooth they almost feel like a cutscene, but the developers have been clear that players stay in full control the whole time. Phantom Blade Zero is scheduled to release on September 9th, 2026, and it's coming to PlayStation 5 and PC. Neo Berlin 2087 is a story-driven, sci-fi action RPG set in a dark future version of Berlin. It popped up with a surprise gameplay trailer on the official PlayStation YouTube channel, and the title made it pretty clear this was meant for Gamescom 2025. The game follows Detective Nolan as he protects the daughter of a murdered police chief while digging into what really happened. The setting leans hard into cyberpunk, so yeah, people are already lining it up next to Cyberpunk 2077, but it's doing its own thing. Combat looks faster and more physical, and you can switch between first-person and third-person views whenever it fits the moment. A big chunk of the game is about investigation, not just fighting. You're questioning people, hunting for clues, and even stepping into suspects' minds to piece things together, which is a cool throwback to ideas we don't see used much anymore. Neo Berlin 2087 is planned for PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series consoles, with a current release window set for 2026. Subnautica 2 is the next underwater survival game from the series, built this time on Unreal Engine 5. Instead of going back to Planet 4546b, this one takes place on a totally new ocean world with its own creatures, biomes, and dangers. The setup is pretty simple on purpose. You're a pioneer heading to a distant planet, something goes wrong, your ship crashes, and now you're stuck trying to stay alive in an environment that clearly doesn't want you there. The story exists, but exploration, building, and survival are still the main draw. The big new change is co-op. Up to 4 players can now swim together, build bases, and explore the depths as a group. Development hasn't been smooth, though. The studio went through internal splits, layoffs, and even legal fights involving the publisher, Krafton. Even with all that, the team says the game is still on track. Subnautica 2 is currently planned for PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S in 2026. The Godslayer is a full-on action RPG from Pathia Games, the studio best known for My Time at Portia. This one came out of nowhere and feels like a complete pivot. It mixes steampunk tech with Eastern fantasy, and the gameplay trailer is where it really shows its hand. In this world, the gods, called the Celestials, built machines to drain chi energy and keep themselves alive forever. Things fall apart when humans learn to extract chi too and use it as elemental magic. War breaks out and the Celestials nearly wipe out all mages in the Kingdom of Zu. You play as Chen, a young man going after the gods responsible for his family's death. Along the way, he joins the secret Fallen Star Society and learns to control elemental powers. The game promises an open world with a high-tech city, different factions pulling in their own directions, and fast, active combat built around spell combos. The Godslayer is in development for PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series, targeting 2026.
One by one, she erased them. They'll hear her coming, but it won't matter. One girl, One gun, one recording.
Better Than Dead is a gritty, photorealistic shooter built around a body cam style viewpoint. Monte Gallo Studios showed off gameplay and confirmed the game is now being published by Microprose, which is back in action. The story takes place in Hong Kong and follows a woman who escaped slavery and is hunting down the people responsible. Her captors abused her, filmed it, and treated her like an object, and now she turns the camera back on them while going after revenge. It's heavy material, and the developers aren't pretending otherwise. The game pulls inspiration from brutal Hong Kong action movies from the 80s and 90s, and that influence shows in the pacing. Everything is fast, tense, and unforgiving. One wrong move can end a run instantly. There's no power fantasy here, just pressure and survival moment to moment. Better Than Dead is planned as a PC release on Steam, with a current release window set for 2026.
Lamp bearer. One must travel many paths on the road to salvation. Paths through light.
Lords of the Fallen 2 showed off a new trailer that made it very clear what kind of game this wants to be. The footage jumps straight into chaos with 3 bosses on screen at once, including a hulking metal-covered demon, a winged knight jumping through magic portals, and a massive dragon tearing through the fight. The devs are leaning hard into faster combat this time, with heavier hits, rougher enemies, and way bigger boss moments. The world still sits in that grim space where the living and the dead are almost tangled together, and that's where the umbral lamp comes back into play. You can swap between Axiom, the land of the living, and Umbral, the realm of the dead, and this isn't just for puzzles anymore. You can flip between both worlds right in the middle of fights, using each side's rules to deal with enemies or get through warped areas. The idea is that switching worlds isn't a gimmick, it's baked into how you survive. Lords of the Fallen 2 is set to launch in 2026 on PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X. Woochi the Wayfarer is a single-player fantasy action game inspired by classic Korean folklore. Nixon Games is building it on Unreal Engine 5, and the first trailer makes the tone clear right away. It opens with a ritual led by a shamanist, then shifts into a brutal fight between Woochi and a monster deep in a dark forest. The game reworks the legend of John Woochi, a powerful mage who goes after corruption and injustice, and places it in a world shaped by the Choson era. You'll see traditional Korean creatures, hear period-inspired music, and explore locations that feel tied closely to that history. One standout detail is the soundtrack, which is being handled by Young Jae-il, known for Parasite and Squid Game. Everything shown so far leans serious and focused, with no fluff. Woochi the Wayfarer is aiming for a 2026 release on PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S.
Something is coming. An intrusive pattern. Of staggering power. Reshaping reality as we know it. Everything we try to keep inside eventually worms its way out. You must have had good reasons.
Control Resonant is Remedy Entertainment's next step in the Control universe, and it's not playing it safe. This time, Jesse Faden isn't the lead. The story follows her brother, Dylan, and the whole feel of the game shifts with him. The famous service weapon is gone, replaced by a strange blade that can change form, moving from a clean sword shape into heavier, more brutal setups. Combat leans hard into close-range fighting. You're dodging, staying tight to enemies, and learning how to control that weapon instead of floating around rooms with powers all the time. The weirdness that made Control stand out is still very much here, and in some ways, it's even stronger. You've got people moving like puppets on strings, birds breaking apart into sharp shapes, and familiar places twisted so far they barely feel real anymore. It's all framed around Dylan trying to hold on to who he is, while reality keeps bending and shifting around him. Remedy is calling this a slasher RPG, and that fits. It looks darker, rougher, and more physical than before. Control Resonant is planned for 2026 on PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S. Ananta is a free-to-play, open-world urban RPG from Naked Rain, and it's already pulling massive attention. After a 7-minute gameplay reveal, pre-registrations shot past 11 million, with over 1 million people signing up in just 10 hours. That kind of response makes sense once you see what they're aiming for. Ananta is built around the idea of a living city. The world is a huge sandbox where you can move almost anywhere. Streets, rooftops, underground areas, public transport, cars, and even helicopters are all part of how you get around. NPCs don't just stand there either. They react to what you do, start random events, and can shift from normal chatter to full-on gang fights without warning. Combat is loose and flexible. You're encouraged to use whatever's around you, grab enemy weapons, mix fighting styles, and rely on dodges and blocks to stay alive. On top of that, you can take on different social roles like police officer, hacker, courier, or even streamer, and each one opens up its own set of stories. Ananta mixes grounded city life with strange, almost surreal moments. It's coming in 2026 on PC, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, iOS, and Android.
You're coming with me.
Tensor, an autocratic AI controlling our city. It took over the government and let the gangs tear the place apart. They've taken my brother. It's time to fight.
Redline, I got your back.
Spine is a single-player action game built around story and style, with a heavy focus on close combat mixed with gunplay. The setting is a future city shaped and controlled by an AI run by the Tensor Corporation. The streets are locked in conflict between different factions, and everything feels tense and unstable. The main character is Redline, a street artist who's openly fighting back against the system running the city. She's not alone, though. Inside her is Spine, a combat implant that has its own thoughts and personality.
You actually talk to it during the game, and that back and forth plays into both the story and how fights unfold. The combat is designed to feel cinematic without taking control away from you. Gunfights flow straight into hand-to-hand attacks, with smooth movement and tight animations holding it all together. Spine is being made in Unreal Engine 5, and the developers are clearly pushing presentation through animation and camera work, not just flashy effects. Spine is planned for release in 2026 on PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S. Gang of Dragon is the next crime action game from Toshihiro Nagoshi, the creator of the Yakuza series. This time, he's back with a brand new project, and it already feels very on brand. The game is set in Kabukicho, the real-world district that inspired Kamurocho, and it leans hard into that gritty, neon-lit crime drama vibe. You play as a lone main character modeled after Magan Soka himself, which is a pretty bold move and definitely gives the game a specific personality right out of the gate. The story centers on a city caught in the middle of a violent clash between criminal groups. It's about power struggles, pride, and personal revenge, which is exactly the lane Nagoshi tends to work best in. Right now, details are pretty light. We don't know much about combat systems or how open the city will be. What we do know is that it's being built in Unreal Engine 5, and the target release window is 2026. So yeah, this one's still early, but if you're into stylish crime stories with serious attitude, this is absolutely one to keep on your radar.
Hello?
It hasn't been easy. But after much effort, here we finally are.
Who are you?
I know now that you're the one that I've been searching for. The special one. The chosen one. Miss Ashcroft.
Resident Evil Requiem is the 9th main entry in the series, and it's set to release on February 27th, 2026. Capcom has confirmed this one wraps up the numbered saga, which already makes it a big deal. What's especially interesting is that the game has 2 playable leads. One is a brand new character, FBI agent Grace Ashcroft. The other is Leon Kennedy, returning once again with his story closely tied to hers. There are already rumors floating around that this might be Leon's final chapter. Whether that means retirement or something darker is still a mystery. The story kicks off with Grace investigating a string of strange deaths. One case leads her to an abandoned hotel where her mother died, and from there, things spiral fast. The trail eventually points back to Raccoon City, now a deserted symbol of everything that went wrong in this world. Requiem sticks to classic survival horror rules, but with modern tech. You can play in first person through Grace's perspective, or switch to third person when you need better awareness. Ammo is tight, healing items matter, and sound is just as dangerous as silence. This one leans more on mood and tension than shock scares, and that feels very intentional.
You there, Leon?
Yeah.
Hey, over here.
FBI. What are you doing here?
Would you like to see what's hidden under the hood?
Don't do anything stupid.
Me? Never.
Turok Origins is the next entry in the long-running shooter series, and it's being developed by Saber Interactive, the team behind Space Marine 2. The game was first shown at the Game Awards last year, and since then it's been pretty quiet. No trailers, no deep dives, almost nothing. Recently though, a small leak from a sound designer's portfolio pointed to a 2026 release window. It's not official, but it's the clearest timing we've seen so far.
And honestly, the silence isn't a bad thing. Saber has a solid track record with fast, heavy action games, so the fact that this project seems to be moving along without drama is a good sign. There still isn't much confirmed about gameplay details, but expectations are high. Fans have been waiting a long time for Turok to really come back in a meaningful way. From what little we know, Origins could be that reset the series needs. If Saber sticks the landing, this might end up giving Turok a real second shot at relevance. John Carpenter's Toxic Commando finally showed real gameplay at Gamescom 2025 after being quiet for over 2 years. Cyber Interactive Studio and Focus Entertainment rolled out a trailer that's clearly leaning hard into loud, messy 1980s action movie energy. The footage shows 4-player co-op with non-stop fights against zombies and gross tentacled creatures, and it moves fast. You're not just running on foot either, you're driving through chaos, blasting stuff apart as a team. Very much in that Left 4 Dead lane, but with way more horror vibes. The whole thing is wrapped in heavy John Carpenter flavor, mixed with that Stranger Things kind of look, and backed by a loud, aggressive soundtrack that fits the tone. It's meant to be dumb fun in the best way, with everything cranked up. One big confirmation is cross-platform co-op, so players on different systems can squad up together. The trailer also locked in the release window. John Carpenter's Toxic Commando is set to launch in early 2026 on PC, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and Xbox Series S. 1348 Ex Voto follows Ada, a young noblewoman living in the year 1348 who wants to become a knight. After bandits tear through her village, she goes looking for her missing friend, Bianca, and that search pulls her into a really rough version of medieval Italy. The game moves through plague-hit towns, old castles, and the broken remains of Rome, and none of these places feel safe. Roads are run by bandits, hired soldiers, and hardcore religious groups, so danger is kind of the default state. One of the big focuses here is authenticity. The locations are built to feel real, and that's not by accident. The studio is based in Italy and actually went out to study the landscapes and architecture to get the look and mood right. It's a small team, but they've got people who've worked at Ubisoft, CD Projekt Red, and Activision, which explains the ambition. This is their first game, and it's aiming for a grounded, grim tone instead of fantasy hero stuff. 1348 Ex Voto is planned for early 2026 and is coming to PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series. Marvel's Wolverine is a much darker take on the character than what people are used to from superhero games. It's being made by Insomniac Games on the same tech as Spider-Man 2, but the mood is completely different. This one leans hard into violence, and Logan fights like someone who's done playing nice. The combat is brutal, and the overall feel is closer to God of War than anything light or flashy. The game moves across a lot of different places, like the forests of Canada, neon-filled Tokyo, and the criminal mess of Madripoor. Along the way, Logan runs into familiar faces like Omega Red, Mystique, and even a Sentinel, which is never a good sign. Some characters will fight alongside him, while others won't stop hunting him at all. One of the main enemy groups is the Reavers, and they're meant to keep pressure on you constantly. The story focuses on Logan digging into his past and dealing with the damage that comes with it. Insomniac says it's an original story that still sticks to the core of the comics. The game has a 16+ rating, it's loaded with blood, and it's scheduled for fall 2026 on PlayStation 5 with a PC release coming later. The Forest 3 was a big surprise announcement from N-Night Games, especially for longtime fans of the series. The first trailer makes it clear right away that things are changing. Visually, it looks sharper and more detailed, and for the first time, the series is leaning into a science fiction style instead of sticking purely to raw survival horror. The main character now uses advanced tech, like glowing tools, high-end gear, and movement devices that let you get around in new ways. There's even a mechanical arm mounted on the shoulder that you control directly in first person, which is a pretty wild shift for the series. The environments also feel way more varied. You'll be moving through abandoned factories, deep underground areas, creepy labs overrun with strange biomass, and huge outdoor zones filled with mutated plant life. Of course, it wouldn't be the forest without new threats. Aggressive mutants are back, along with strange humanoid enemies that don't look friendly at all. Everything shown so far feels more dangerous and more mysterious. The Forest 3 is currently aiming for a 2026 release, though a specific date hasn't been locked in yet. Ill is a first-person horror action game that grabbed attention the moment it was revealed. It leans hard into gore, body horror, and unsettling imagery, and it doesn't hold back. The story details are being kept under wraps for now, but what's clear is that this isn't just random scares thrown together. Ill is set in locations inspired by Eastern Europe, and the tone is bleak from start to finish. You're not just wandering through scary places for no reason. The main character's past is tied directly into what's happening, and the game wants you to feel isolated and worn down as things get worse. Exploration plays a big role, along with survival systems like crafting, upgrades, and puzzles. Ammo and supplies are limited, so every choice matters, including how you manage your inventory. Enemy encounters can shift from tense one-on-one fights to full boss battles, and the environments react to your actions. Turning power back on in one area might make another part of the map even more dangerous. Visually, the game looks sharp and disturbing thanks to Unreal Engine 5. Ill is planned for PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series consoles, with a release window set for 2026.
Do you have an appointment?
The name's Bond.
James Bond. He's with me.
And you are? Don't think we've had the pleasure.
Now let's not get ahead of ourselves, James.
So you shouldn't have.
007 First Light is an action game from IO Interactive, the studio best known for the Hitman series. This time, they're telling a fresh James Bond story that isn't tied to the movies at all. Bond here is only 26, and he's not the smooth, polished spy people expect yet. He starts out as a naval aviation pilot, and after a big heroic moment, he gets pulled into agent training. Things go sideways fast on his first real mission when he fails to capture a traitor. From there, Bond teams up with his mentor, Greenway, to dig into a larger mess inside British intelligence. This version of Bond was made just for the game. He's not modeled after any actor, and the story stands on its own. Gameplay sticks close to what IO Interactive does best. Each mission is open-ended. You can sneak, hide, and lean on spy gadgets. You can walk in loud with a pistol, or you can talk your way through problems if that feels right. It's all about choice and replay value. 007 First Light launches March 27th, 2026 on PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S. Star Wars: Fate of the Old Republic is a new single-player RPG set in the Old Republic era, and it was one of the biggest reveals at the Game Awards 2025. The project is led by Casey Hudson, who worked on Mass Effect and directed the original Knights of the Old Republic. For a lot of fans, his return to this era is the main reason this game turned heads. The game is billed as a story-first RPG with a big focus on choice. Every major decision pushes the main character toward the light side or the dark side, and those choices are meant to shape how the story plays out. The setting focuses on a galaxy trying to rebuild itself, which gives the writers room to explore new conflicts without retelling old ones. Ardent Studios, made up of experienced devs, is aiming to honor what made KOTOR special. That means strong characters, tough choices, and a very classic Star Wars tone, just told through a modern single-player RPG structure. Gothic 1 Remake is being developed by Alchemia Interactive as a full rebuild of the 2001 RPG classic. The original team isn't involved, but the developers have been clear that they're treating the source material with care. The plan isn't just nicer graphics, they're also updating old systems that didn't age well, while keeping the dark mood and structure fans remember. The story still takes place inside a mining colony, trapped under a magical barrier. Prisoners are forced to mine magic ore for King Robar, and over time, the inmates break off into rival factions and start running things themselves. You play as the nameless prisoner caught in the middle, and your choices help shape how power shifts inside the colony. The main story, characters, and layout are staying intact. Gothic 1 was a huge deal when it first came out, and the hope is that this remake keeps that rough, grim feel alive. Gothic 1 Remake is set to release in 2026 on PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series XS. Styx Blades of Greed is the next stealth game from Cyanide Studio, and the Goblin Thief is back for another round. The game is scheduled for 2026 on PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series consoles. Styx returns as the same sharp-tongued, sneaky troublemaker, and the focus is once again on stealth-first gameplay. This time, the central goal is quartz, a rare and dangerous resource that could kick off a war between elves, humans, and orcs. Levels are built to be tall and layered, giving you plenty of paths, ledges, and hidden routes to work with. You're encouraged to plan your moves before jumping into a job. You can upgrade Styx's skills, craft weapons, and mix potions based on how you want to approach each mission. Sneaking, scouting, and setting traps all play a big role. It sticks closely to what the series already does well, just with bigger spaces and more tools to mess with enemies your way.
Shots fired! Shots fired!
Unrecord is the hyper-realistic body cam shooter from French studio Drama, and it's now fully in production with support from Tencent. The game blew up years ago when its first trailer dropped, mostly because people couldn't believe it was real and not CGI. Since then, Drama has confirmed it's a single-player, story-focused shooter built entirely around realism. Every movement, every shot, and every moment is meant to look and feel raw and unfiltered, like actual body cam footage. Tencent's investment in 2025 helped the team grow and move faster, but the developers have been clear that creative control stays with them. Tencent isn't steering the project. Unrecord is currently scheduled for a 2026 release, with more details and a release date expected in early 2026. As soon as new info drops, that's when we'll really see how far this thing is going to push realism in shooters.
It's all right.
Lunka! Don't hurt her!
You gave us quite the chase, young.
Please, sir. She's just a child!
Roderick, remind me, did I make an exception for children?
No, sire.
No. That would have been foolish, would it not? They spread the plague just as well as adults. And there's only one way to stamp out this sickness.
No!
Not just a runner, but a fighter, too. Had we met under a different moon, things might have ended there.
The Blood of Dawnwalker is a vampire fantasy RPG coming in 2026 from Rebel Wolves, a studio formed from former CD Projekt Red developers. While The Witcher 4 is still years away, this feels like their own dark answer to that style of game. The story follows a man who's half human and half vampire, stuck with a brutal limit of 30 days to save his family and stop a disaster from tearing the world apart. The game splits its gameplay by time of day. During daylight, combat is grounded with swords and ritual magic. At night, everything flips and you hunt as a full-on vampire with supernatural powers. That balance between being fragile and being unstoppable is a big part of how the game works. You'll explore forests, swamps, and ruined villages with a large map and tough choices that actually matter. Given the team's background on The Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk 2027, expectations are high.
What you doing up there?
I'm just fixing some leaks.
Seriously, dude, you got some time on your hands. I got some properties with paying tenants.
Oh, that's why you came by?
Just go get me my checks.
See you, Brian. Love you, Jason. I'm here for Lucia Caminos. She's supposed to be getting out.
What's your name?
Jason Duval.
I seen you here before.
You might have.
Grand Theft Auto 6 now has a new release date, and yes, it's been pushed again. The game is currently set to launch on November 19th, 2026, and hopefully that's the final stop. GTA 6 has been talked about for years, and Rockstar is clearly aiming bigger than anything they've done before. Based on what's already been spent, this is shaping up to be one of the most expensive games ever made. Grand Theft Auto 6 is set in a modern version of Vice City, and this time the story follows a criminal duo inspired by Bonnie and Clyde. Lucia is the first female lead in a mainline GTA game, and Jason isn't just along for the ride. He's a full playable character, and the story is built around their relationship and choices. Rockstar seems to be leaning into something more grounded and personal this time. The map covers an entire state inspired by Florida, and the scale sounds huge. Buildings aren't just set dressing either. You can enter and shop in around 700 stores across the map. The main story alone is said to run about 75 hours, and that's before side content. The game is expected to launch first on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series consoles, with PC coming later. Pricing is rumored to hit around $100 for the standard version, so yeah, this one's gonna be a big deal in every way. Thank you for spending your time with me today. I hope these new games gave you hope for what is coming in 2026. If you enjoyed the video, please like it and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you do not miss the next one. Tell me in the comments which game you are waiting for the most. See you next time. Bye-bye.